The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. It's a Monday road show. Hail Varsity Radio here in downtown Lincoln. Rosie's downtown. 10th and P. Excited to be down here. Excited to hear more from you as Nebraska still trying to get in the grasp of that sixth win. Nebraska-Maryland drove many of you to drink or medicate. Kind of joking. Numbers to get in. It's open phones this first hour at 489-1240, 489-1240. Could always chime in on the stream. We're streaming live on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio. Elijah Herbel back in studio at Herbal Essence. Give him a follow. Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio. It's where you can find me and give me a follow. And, it was one of those games that probably ticked you off. And there's been a lot of them over the years, if you're a Nebraska fan, where it just went sideways and you're screaming out loud to the clouds or at your TV or both. Why? Why do things go sideways? Why does this offense continue to turn the football over? We'll try and answer that today and beyond. Can it change? Can it be fixed is the question, and you have a week to do it, and we don't know who's going to be at quarterback because two of the three are banged up. The third option makes you nauseous based on performance and confidence, and then you got a couple of walk-on choices. Oh, yeah, Wisconsin is sick right now. Michigan State has been sick. They got better. Maryland sick. They got better against Nebraska. You're trying to avoid the wrong kind of trifecta. You can also check in wherever you hear us across the Hail Varsity Radio Network, 800-825-5865. Can email the show, Chris at hailvarsity.com. And reminder, we're here for Monday Night Football. The Bills and Broncos. Elijah, do you have your Denver gear on, or is it in the backpack? Aha, you are wearing the donkey shirt. Check that out and rate it, folks, on the stream. Do you like Elijah's donkey gear or Denver apparel? Our dear friend Munchie down here at Rosie's, he's rocking his Denver hat as well. But good spot here at Rosie's downtown. We know you love it for game day as well. But just a reminder, Silas Creek going to be here November 17th. Cody Johnson also going to be performing at PBA. We're back here the 27th as for Bears-Vikings. Bears fans, you need a hug. Denver making a bit of a run. The Bills, danger time right now. They try and avoid 5-5. Nebraska at 5-5. Elijah, we'll hear from Matt Rule in a little bit. We'll have some of Rule's Rewind coming up here, his presser today. And listen, I appreciate Matt Rule answering questions, even if it's not answers you really want to hear. And you've got an appetite just based on the last 2 decades, and you're kind of numb to it. You're used to changes being made. You're used to coordinators getting fired. You're used to offensive coaches moving on. You're used to head coaches and staffs being blown out. And that was the question, and that's been the outcry by a lot of Nebraska fans on social media. Maybe somebody you bumped into at brunch yesterday morning or at the coffee shop or at work today. You're pulling your hair out on 3rd down and 7, Elijah. Not to be masochistic here, but that's what everyone's still freaking out about. The choice of calling a play a passing game. And listen, Nebraska wants to be aggressive. They don't want to live in fear. I understand that completely, but there's also a time to fight another day. Or the real simple answer is, even if you sneak it 3 times, 1st and 10 at the 7. You're going, what are they doing? No, they're not conceding. They're not playing scared. You can play conservative, but also make the right call. And in hindsight, especially after a 3rd down red zone interception, the right call was to kick the field goal on 1st down. It didn't happen. Nebraska's defense did not answer the bell. And it first and foremost to me, man, it's a mentality. And it was kind of the deja vu of Minnesota again, where Nebraska's defense went out there and they got dinged on a DPI on 3rd down and forever. And then they got gashed on a couple of runs, a scramble, and then a pretty fateful 2nd and 8 where the back, his name rhymes with Humby, I think, went for 22. Himby. I'm. It's not quite Humby.
It's Gumby if Gumby was him.
Right. Thank you. He is him, as Prime would say. But Nebraska again let it slip through their hands and aired it unnecessarily, and that's just it. Are you tone deaf to the situation with just Murphy's Law and bad things happening when you throw the football? You need to be a balanced offense, but Elijah, they're not ready to be a balanced offense right now, and therein lies the problem. I don't know who's going to start Saturday. I know who Nebraska fans don't want, and I think door number 3 is the choice. We'll see if Chubba Pretty's the guy moving forward and ready to go. Munchie threw out as he says, Munchie's hot take of the day. Our dear friend down here at Rosie's downtown. Nebraska fans aren't going to be happy with 5 and 7 if that's how this story ends. But you're going to feel a little bit. I don't know if you'll feel a little bit better, but you'll like your chances better at quarterback. I think moving forward with Purdy, you've got a tiny sample size in one drive. But horrible circumstance, shadow of your own goal line, Elijah, and he drove him. Yeah, he threw the pick. Play shouldn't have been called, especially in hindsight. But if Chubba can stay healthy, I think Nebraska fans feel better going into battle with him Saturday in Madtown and for Black Friday. They want no part of Sims. Don't blame them. And I don't know that Harburg's going to be healed up, even if Mr. Miyagi flies into town. High ankle sprain with him, and he's regressed. As much as Nebraska's done to adapt an offense to him, defenses have responded in the Big Ten, and he's had a real confidence issue throwing the football.
I mean, I'd feel better if Nebraska rolled out there with 10 on offense and just no quarterback on Saturday than what Nebraska's got.
Just wildcat it?
No, just don't even have a quarterback back there. Wildcat it, but just leave a guy on the sideline. 10 guys, I'd feel better about the offense. The quarterback has been absolutely hamstringing Nebraska all year long, and I think you do have to look at the offensive coordinator, at Satterfield. I know Rule defended him post-game, defended him again today. There's not going to be a switch made this offseason. Get ready for more Marcus Satterfield next year. And I think we're going to spend a lot of time, obviously open phone lines here for you if you want to talk about this, 402-489-1240. Give us a call. I'll get you on the line. But that play call is very emblematic of Nebraska's issues all year long on offense. It's play calling that doesn't understand what strengths your offense has, does not understand what weaknesses your offense has, and it's a play call that does not understand what wins in the Big Ten West. Yes, running the football and smash mouth football is what wins in the Big Ten West, but I said it on our pregame show. I said it a lot last week. I've said it this season. A lot of times in the Big Ten and in the Big Ten West especially, offensively, it's about risk aversion, averting bad things that can happen to your offense and taking the points when you can get them. Nebraska did not do that on that 3rd and goal play call there at the end. You understand the risks of having a third stringer in there that was not repping with the first teamers all week long, did not run some of the play calls that they were hoping to get down in a 3rd and to go situation. You know what a 3rd string quarterback always knows what to do? They always know how to hand a football off. I'm going to go there again because that play call in and of itself, I know Matt Rule defended it, it is not representative of understanding what your offense can and cannot do well. I understand in modern college football, 9 offenses out of 10 there, 3rd and goal from the 9, are going to be running a pass play. You want to get into the end zone. If it's an incompletion, okay, you can kick the field goal. But look at what Nebraska's been this season with turnovers. Look what your quarterbacks have been this season with turnovers. You got a guy in the football game that hasn't thrown a pass since the Colorado game, hasn't been repping with the first teamers at practice, it makes no sense to ask him to put that much on his shoulders in that moment and say, you know what, read the defense. If it's man coverage, you're throwing the corner out. If it's zone coverage, you're going to look at one of those slant routes. You're going to find the opening in the zone. It doesn't make sense to me to run that play call whenever you can hand the football off, get your 3 points on the board, and trust your defense. That is the problem with that play call, and that's why there's so much focus on that. It's just very representative of Nebraska's issues offensively all season long and issues with the play calling all season long. Because Nebraska, realistically, with better play calling, could have had a win against Minnesota. And I kind of lay that one to the side because it's the first game, and I can understand a coordinator that doesn't understand the strengths and weaknesses of your offense week one of the season. But Michigan State with better play calling, you think should be a win. And then definitely Maryland, you think with better play calling, should be a win. So I'm going to put on a lot of this on Marcus Satterfield with how he called the end of that game. And I said that during the post-game show. Had some time to digest yesterday, last night, into this morning. I still feel like Marcus Satterfield is the one that's to blame for the Husker loss on Saturday, even though Matt Rule gets up and defends him, because it just does not strike you as play calling that understands what the weaknesses of this offense are. It's a play calling that strikes me as this is what we want to do at Nebraska offensively, and the guys need to rise to that challenge. I'm going to make the play call that I will be making 3 years from now as opposed to what's going to help us win now. That's what I see whenever I see this Marcus Satterfield play calling. It's saying, you know what, I know you have limitations as a quarterback, but we want you to rise to the challenge as opposed to saying, you know what, you have limitations as a quarterback, so we're going to make the play call that is going to work best for you in this moment.
The play call and execution part of that drive that started at the 3-yard line for Nebraska, once the defense came up again and stripped the football as Maryland's going in, and again the defense rises up. You get a monster 4th down stop. You get a couple of forced fumbles as they're marching. You get another interception. Buda Wright was big time, and Nebraska made a play to go win the football game 4 times on defense in that second half. And the offense just keeps kicking that old gift horse in the mouth. And I understand, again, that you can't live in fear, but there is something to be said for just taking points and having the defense go out there to preserve a lead versus, man, they did this to us again. That's got to creep into your head a little bit as a defensive player. And, you know, if you're Nebraska right now, I need some things to happen these final 2 games, and I need some things to happen this offseason for Nebraska. We'll get to your comments in the stream. I know there's a ton coming in. If you're trying to get in on the phone lines, we'll get to you in a little bit, I promise, and we'll hear from Rule. Really good presser. And as a great leader, he is taking the arrows, and he's sticking up for his guy. So it's twofold, two-way street. The execution has flat out sucked by some of the quarterbacks. They have made stupid throws. They've made bad decisions, and they're not being coached nor taught to do so. But it continues to happen. So there's a breakdown there somewhere. There's also this willingness to keep calling it, hoping you'll have a different result. 3rd and 6, Chubba ripped a great throw to Lloyd, and that was a 24-yard gain. Then you get a 29-yard gallop by Emmett, and you're set up. You got momentum. You're rolling. And then you go back to a pass play that Chubba goes rogue on, or just wisely says, oh, this run's going to get stuffed. Let me chuck it out of bounds near Fedoni. So it's 2nd and 10. They TFL you on 2nd down, and all of a sudden it's 3rd down, and they're going trips there. To your point, Elijah, with the inexperience, you have it wide out, and Maryland made a play. Just fall on the ball, kick the field goal, 1,000% in hindsight. Nebraska, though, needs to really look at who they're listening to and what set of eyes they have on when it comes to their quarterbacks. Who are you bringing in? Who are you running off? Who are you developing? And can you be better at it? Again, you lost 2 quarterbacks that I think we can all say, listen, you drop in 2 quarterbacks that have moved on from Nebraska, you'd be at the same spot or better, presumably, if you had those guys with what you've been doing on offense. And then you just absolutely get it completely wrong with Sims. And then you do some nice things and you adapt to what Haarberg can do, but there's not been this readaptation after the defenses have adapted to him. On top of, you wonder where his confidence is at. Chubba comes in, bails you out, and yet there's a pick. Very problematic. Anonymous has been firing away, typing away. I giggled at this. Napoleon invading Russia. Germany letting Austria-Hungary invade Serbia. Rule bringing in Jeff Sims. Each century seems to include someone making a terrible decision that leads to a complete disaster. I thought as a history buff, Elijah, there would be some humor in that. Everyone expects Sims and Purdy to graduate and jump to the portal, and for HH to switch positions. Exactly how will NU have enough quarterback depth for him to switch positions? They gotta find a portal. Yes, they got to develop Kalen, and they need one of and they need Chubba to stick around, and they need Heine to probably move back to H-back.
You don't need Chubba to stick around. You need an entire new quarterback room. It's as simple as that. You need to go to the portal. You have one guy in Daniel Kalen. You need an entire new quarterback room.
We'll see what they get. 489-1240. Hail Varsity on the Rose at Rosie's 10th and P.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity here at Rosie's downtown. 10th and P here till 6. Come on by. We're presented by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, 489-1240. So Rick James Enterprises has chimed in with a critique. And if it's not been made clear, forgive us, because we've said it a lot over the past 48 hours with Chubba's decision on first down. Clearly the play call was not a pass, Rick James Enterprises. We've said that quite a bit here with both post games, and if that wasn't clear to you, forgive me. But yeah, when I say Chubba went rogue, he went rogue on that first down with throwing the football when it was supposed to be a run. So it's not a stick for us with what we're saying and what we're talking about. Just so you're clear, 489-1240 to get in. We'll get into some more of the comments. Phone call.
Yes, yeah, we have Ed on the line.
Ed, thanks for calling. Go for it.
Ed, this is Ed. Chris, what are we going to do with quarterback situation? I mean, maybe I missed some of the program, but transfer portal or what? I mean, I don't know in Division I football, has there ever been 3 quarterbacks to throw an interception in a single game?
I have not looked up that morbid fact, Ed. Portal, yes, and presumably you're going to ask somebody to stay so you can keep working. Part of the problem in college football, though, is you don't get kids to stick around long enough to develop because everyone's jumping to the portal. It also kind of hamstrings you on what high school kids you do recruit because you're looking more towards the portal for your quarterback situation. So they're going to look at the portal for sure. They're going to look at what they have in the room. They're going to scour the earth, I would believe, and also see what type of work Kalen can provide, although that's a big ask for a true freshman to come in.
That's for sure. So, but if you find that statistic out, I'll be listening, and maybe the next day or two you could. I just can't believe it. It's got to be a first. I mean, I could be wrong, but boy, oh boy, I don't know. 3 in a one game, different quarterbacks, interception, Division I power program. So,
and I'll hit the old Google machine, and I'll see what I can find for you. All right.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Best. We'll see you.
Ed, appreciate you. 489-1240. Good from Ed. Dave checks in. Starting to feel like this coaching staff, for at least the OC, is Callahan 2.0. So there's a history reference there. Brian checks in. Are we, again, the team everyone wants to schedule? Brian says we are the team that everyone wants to schedule for homecoming. Brian, with maybe the best idea for some Nebraska fans, tell Sims the game is Sunday. Walter, our friend in Philadelphia, says calling plays your quarterbacks aren't capable of executing is coaching malpractice. And, man, it is chicken or egg with execution and talent you have. To be a little bit fair, Nebraska has adapted to what they've had at quarterback for part of the season. That's how you got part of the 3 wins. You've survived so many turnovers, Elijah. That problem still needs to be corrected. I don't know if it can be fixed in 2 weeks, but it needs to be dialed back severely with any hope to win on the road or at home on Black Friday.
Well, and as we talk about the quarterback room as a whole, does this not kind of strike you as whenever Bo Pelini had Zach Lee as his quarterback his first year at Nebraska, where, like, yeah, you have some relative success, but it's because of the defense. Offense really holding you back. It does not feel like Nebraska has a quarterback in the room that fits what Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rule want to do offensively. And you inherited 2 of these guys. They're both your guys now, but, I mean, not necessarily what you're looking for. You've had to fit your offense around what Harburg does well, which has been somewhat of a change. You did for a while, but it has never been a full shift like I think was needed. Sims didn't work out like you expected it to. That's why I think Nebraska needs an entirely new quarterback room, because that's the one place, like, defensively, you had guys that fit into the system that you were bringing in. That's why it made the transition feel a little more seamless. You had a nose guard in Nash Hutmacher that eats up 2 blocks every single play and asks for more. You have a guy in Isaac Gifford that plays that rover position well, that, you know what, can hit like a linebacker, can cover like a defensive back. You kind of lucked into that, and so it's made that defensive transition easy. You had guys already on roster that fit what you wanted to do. Offensively, I don't think you came in with a quarterback on roster that fit what you wanted to do. The transfer portal guy that you brought in to be a Band-Aid didn't quite work out for you. And Marcus Satterfield has decided, you know what, I'm not going to rip up what my offense is to find what these quarterbacks do well. He's tried to marry the 2 in a way that hasn't quite worked out. And that's why I think there's the patience from Rule's end, saying, you know what, we're going to continue rolling with Satterfield. I have confidence in what he calls. It's just not a coach that calls what works for his quarterbacks and what works in the Big Ten West right now. It feels like a coach that is coaching for 3 years down the road here and say, you know what, 3 years from now on 3rd and 9 in a goal-to-go situation, we're going to throw the football. That's what our receivers are expected to do. We're working with our freshman receiver. We're going to make sure that that's what we're calling for them now, because we're not going to compromise what we are right now in order to get a win. And I think that's what leaves such a bad taste in Husker fans' mouth with that play calling, and with Matt Rule coming up and defending Marcus Satterfield in that play call is it's not a play call that is keeping in mind what you do well as an offense right now. It just feels like Marcus Satterfield calling, you know what, this is what my offense is. If the guys can't rise to my standard, that is a problem for them. There is a standard that needs to be met with this offense, and you know what, we're going to go find a guy that can rise to that standard. For a couple games, Harburg was rising to that challenge. He couldn't do it anymore. Now we turn to Purdy, and you know what? With the game on the line, he couldn't rise to that standard. There's just a problem with the Husker offense and how it's being called, and I think what it's going to take to be able to get those results, because Marcus Satterfield clearly doesn't want to change what his offense is, has to be getting a new quarterback room and finding some guys that can go and execute what you want your offense to be, because Nebraska doesn't have a guy that can do that right now.
What did Bo do with the post-Joe Gans era before T Magic took over? He leaned hard on Roy Halou.
Yes.
And they had some dip and dunk passing. You can throw the football, but it doesn't have to be 15 or 20 yards downfield on your plays. I mean, the interception was a touchdown because your guy's not seeing it, and that's problematic. Who's on the line?
We go to Pete.
Pete, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
How you doing today?
We're good, Pete. What do you think?
Well, number one, when I look at the quarterbacks, they've regressed, not progressed. Tells me they're not getting very good coaching. Number two, they brought the guy in that was a turnover machine at his previous college. As far as Harburg is concerned, we brought in a guy in high school that was a turnover machine in high school. I don't think the guys are getting good coaching. I don't think they understand. They can throw the ball, but mentally they don't understand. And that's poor coaching. That's absolutely, and I put it on Rule because he could overrule these calls. So he says we want to be a physical running team, and then they go passing. We'll run the ball down on several plays, and then all of a sudden 3 passes in a row. I don't understand it. I think Satterfield thinks he's got a professional team and a professional offense out there. I don't think he understands what he's working with. I don't think he is willing to adjust, and that's a poor coach. So my opinion, I don't see how he can stay. I don't see it getting better. I don't think he can read talent. I don't think he can develop talent. So that's my opinion.
Pete, thanks for the phone call. And a lot of Nebraska fans nodding their head with Pete. Rock checks in. Rule was strong yet again. He continues to impress me. He's much more engaged and hands-on than Riley or Frost. Coach him up and collaborate for some new wrinkles. Let's hear about the quarterbacks. Go ahead.
Really fast, I want to respond to Pete's phone call here because that's something that I've gotten with the benefit of hindsight, giving myself some time to digest from Saturday. Saturday, I thought some of the game planning offensively was offensive malpractice. And I do think in a one-game situation, it is malpractice to throw your third-string quarterback into that situation. You know what? Biggest play of the game, 3rd and 9. A field goal gives you the lead and probably can give you a win if you can go turn to your defense. It feels bad, but I think what we're seeing is a coaching staff that is not willing to compromise their long-term vision to go win one football game in year one. And right or wrong, I think that's what we're seeing offensively, that, you know what, 3 years from now, whenever you have a different quarterback in charge, you want to be able to throw the football 3rd and 9, and you're going to find out which guy on your roster can rise to that challenge and go make a play and do what is needed from your offense, from the offensive play calling point of view. And I think that's a mistake in a one-game sample size to do that, but I think it's about instilling, hey, this is what we do. I mean, to use another soccer reference for you, which I know the people out there love.
That is awesome.
I'm going to do it. Tottenham Hotspur has a new head coach in charge this year, Ange Postecoglou's name. I'll give you the short and sweet of it. They got 2 people sent off for red cards against Chelsea a couple of weeks ago. What most teams do in that situation is they go park the bus, they put all their defensive players behind the ball, really congested up in front of goal so it's hard to get scoring opportunities. Ange Postecoglou comes out in the second half and says, we're not going to do that. We're going to hold a high line, play attacking football despite the fact this other team has a 2-man advantage on us, and we're going to roll with what happens. You lose 4-1, but it's about instilling that mentality that, hey, no matter what happens in a football game, this is what we are as a football team. This is what our mentality is going to be. And either you rise to the challenge and you execute and you go out and play the kind of football we want to play, or you end up riding the bench. And right now, Nebraska has 3 guys that are moving towards bench riding as the year goes on, as the seasons go on, as you move into the offseason. But you're finding out that you just don't have the guys on your roster now to execute what you want to do. And it hurts you in the short term. It hurts you in a game against Maryland. But I think with that long-term vision of a rebuild in mind, they're trying to show the guys, hey, we're not going to compromise because we're limited. We're not going to compromise because our offense is injured. This is what we do. You go out and execute our vision, our play calling, our standard, and we go out and win football games. If you can't do that, we're going to lose, and we're going to find a new guy that can step in there and go do that for us.
You've got to set the tone with your team. They've clearly accepted and adapted to how you want to do things, but you're the adults in the room. So you got to really analyze the situation. And I'm hoping for better analyzation with what they do next at quarterback. We'll dive into who you think we'll see, who do you want to see on Saturday. Coming up, 489-1240, open phones this first hour. Blackshirt McBride, Mr. Charlie is coming up at 5:05. Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFL, are going to join us in hour 2, get his take on things. But defense was still, at this point in the season, ready to take it on and did fantastic work. You don't want them to have to play perfect. I get it, but they had to play perfect on Saturday. And shy of a shutout, it's going to continue to be uphill with the turnover rate Nebraska's at. Down here at Rosie's, 10th and P, Roadshow Monday at Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Cornhead Lager.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? We're not pointing you yet.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Back to you at Hail Varsity on the road here, 10th and P, Rosie's downtown, another Monday night road show. Getting ready for Elijah Herbel's Denver Broncos as they're in action tonight against the Buffalo Bills on the road. And Orchard Park, or it used to be Orchard Park. We'll get to hear some Rule here in a minute. Jeff is on the line. Jeff, thanks for hanging on. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Smitty. I really enjoyed the show. But
thanks for listening.
I wonder sometimes if us as Nebraska fans, we've kind of lost our perspective, because I've been listening to this show for a long time. And a few months ago, before the season started, everybody was talking about, Nebraska will be lucky to go 3-8 or 4-7 or whatever. And now they've won the 5 games, and they're exceeding what they expected to come out of the first year. And I don't think there's anybody that wants to win any more than Matt Rule wants to win. But we're asking the question, why aren't we playing better? Well, we've won 5 games, which was a lot better than most of these so-called Nebraska fans said we were going to do this year anyway.
I think the maddening part, Jeff, is you've found a way, to your credit, as a locker room and staff, through injury and trial, to get to 5. And would you be fair to say there's been 3 games left on the table due to some questionable play calling and for sure turnovers? Minnesota, Michigan State, Maryland.
Well, absolutely.
Sure. So the fact you're at 5 right now and you've exceeded expectations is great, but you go get more. Be greedy, I guess, but not inside the red zone.
I agree with you 100%, but I also know that every team in the country in Week 10 is probably better than they were in Week 1, and they've had a chance to scout you and see what the new everything's about.
No, people are either getting better or worse, and Nebraska's gotten better at the offensive line. Some of the young wideouts have made plays. The defense has continued to be rock star solid. Special teams has been up and down, but for the most part up when it comes to field goals. The place that's gone the wrong direction is the quarterback spot. Right.
No, I agree with you. I think that we need to be a little bit more patient and understand that this is, Rule talked about it at one point, this is uncharted territory for him in the first year.
Sure. No, he's done a great job dealing with all the injuries. It's just a tough look right now at 5-7 and all these turnovers. Jeff, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your take on things.
You bet. Thank you.
489-1240 to get in. Let's hear from Rule on the quarterback issues. Was asked about that. What are the biggest issues at quarterback and what can be fixed here? Cut 2.
There's been several issues throughout the year. And so, anytime that you have this, the number one is turnovers, right? I mean, like we have 3 3-point games. I think in those 3-point games, I think we have 12 turnovers in those 3-point games. Check me if I'm wrong. I think 11 of them come out of the quarterback position. So to me, to turn the ball over, right? At the same time, a lot of those games were close because, Heinrich made great runs or, Jeff made some great runs against Minnesota. So a lot of good things happened from those guys. I'm one of those coaches that, I don't love to make like big, everything to me is very incremental. Like, hey, it was this here, it was this here. But certainly I would be a fool not to sit here and tell you it's protecting the football. In the passing game, I think, obviously the first interception, I'll still feel like, the one with Jeff, Malachi gets tackled and we're running the double move. But I'd love to see our quarterbacks, as I talk to them, just be a little bit more intentional about, we can't keep throwing balls up, and we can't just throw balls up to a spot thinking the guy's going to be there. Like at the end of the day, you have to be intentional at quarterback. Like every ball you throw is a ball you want to throw. And we had twice where guys threw interceptions, kind of backing up and letting it rip, and that's not who we are. That's not who we should be. And so, there's always a yin and yang to it. Obviously, like they're young players. I'm trying to guide them through it. We're trying to guide them through it at the same time, having expectations and standards for the way that we want to play. So, what can be fixed in the next 2 weeks? I certainly think, Sam, that we fixed kind of like the pocket ball security. Like you go back 2 games ago. Not the pocket, running the ball. Heinrich had 2 fumbles, and so we've certainly worked on that. We've certainly worked on the way we hold the football. This was interceptions this week. And, so what can we do? We just keep coaching. And I know that sounds trite, but like we just keep coaching, we just keep pushing, we just keep grinding, we just keep working, and hope that it just continues to come to fruition. Build on the good things and try to eliminate the bad things.
That was Coach Rule on the quarterback issues. More specific here, Elijah cut 6. Chubba in that third down pick. What exactly should have happened? What led to what happened?
So, first of all, let me say this. I take responsibility for that, okay? I take responsibility for that. It's a good play call. So the play is very simply, it's a play that every team in the world runs. It's 3-man routes. It's double under with a corner route, right? And so basically versus man, the two guys run the under routes. They chase the under routes. You have a one-on-one corner. It's incomplete, or, So, they zero blitz. It's 90 protection. It's a gap protection. Fedoni stays in. He's not going to get hit. It's just a confluence of events, right? It's we take a long time coming out of it by number 1. So a lot of people, I think, thought we were trying to throw the ball to number 1. And because it looks like the ball's going to number 1, it's Billy flattens that route out because the guy kind of undercuts him, and really you'd love to just see Chubba put that ball in the back corner, and those guys get out of the way a little quicker. So it just wasn't quite executed exactly right. Which again, when it comes down to execution, it falls on me. And their kid made 2 unbelievable plays. I mean, that corner made on a double move to beat the safety. He ran back and picked the ball off, and on that play, he's playing the guy man and comes off of it. It picks off the in-cut. So when you look at the tape, it looks really, really bad. Let me just say that. It looks really, really bad, and I get that. And I'm not sitting here saying that for the players. The play clock was running down on us. Things were going fast. I think originally they wanted to run, Sat wanted to run a pick play by 1, 2, and 3. We kind of got up there to see what they're in because I didn't want to put Chubb in a bad position where all of a sudden it goes to zone. He's had no reps in any of these plays this week. And, that play happened. So I wouldn't put that on Chubb. I wouldn't put that on anybody but me. But that is what that play is. It's we call it. It's Indy. It's old Peyton Manning, right? 2 unders with a corner route. First man, you throw the corner out. They just kind of got too close together. So that's one of those ones I wake up at 2 in the morning thinking about. Hey, that's on me.
And that was the point I was making earlier, Schmidt, where Matt Rule said didn't want to put Chubba in a bad position with the play that you haven't repped. You don't want to put him in a bad position. You hand the freaking ball off, and that's where I was kind of getting to earlier this our last segment where I was talking about. You want to do what you want to do offensively. That's like the perfect example right there is what you want to do in the long run is throw that ball into the end zone, put 7 points on the board and say, you know what, we're going to take some pressure off the defense. They can give up some yards the next drive. The problem is you're putting him into a bad position by having him throw the football in any way, shape, or form. And sure, great play by the defensive back, but an experienced quarterback, I think you can trust in that situation. A guy that hasn't gotten reps and doesn't know that, you just hand the ball off.
You nailed it. Know your personnel, know the situation, and the guy dusted off with put off a groin surgery so he could be available. Cutter's comment here, responding to Jeff's call. It's not that it's that we aren't losing games, we're beating ourselves. If we're just losing due to lack of talent, you're okay with that, with 5 wins. They've left wins on the table. We'll wind down hour 1 here at Rosie's.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Charlie McBride, Mr. Blackshirt, weighs in on the loss to Maryland 10 minutes away. Schmidt and Elijah Herbel, downtown Rosie's, 10th and P. We're here on a Monday night road show. Reminder to get buckled up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Gary, thanks for hanging on. Go ahead.
You bet. Thanks, guys. Great show as usual. Actually, unfortunately, I agree with most everything that's being said. And I just want to touch on a couple of things I don't agree with, and that is playing the style. I'm talking about offensively of what we want to do in the long haul. We pay the 2 top people that we're talking about there tens of thousands of dollars. We don't pay them for 3 or 4 years, and then, hey, if we get there, then we'll be okay. The fans are restless. And when I'm talking about fans, I'm talking about the guys that make things work financially. And, the one thing I really want to know is our offensive coordinator, where has he been ever where he's been considered a very good or great offensive coordinator plus quarterback's coach, where those are our 2 weaknesses. I'm not going to pick on the kids. The kids do what they're coached to do, and they do as well as they can. But I do put a blame on our top man, number 1, although he's a great guy. I enjoy him very, very much. But our offensive coordinator hasn't been able to maximize the strength that he's got. And if he's playing for 3 years from now, why in the hell should we pay him that many thousands of dollars? That's it.
Great
folks.
questions.
Thanks much.
Gary, appreciate your take. Thanks for the phone call. 489-1240. I mean, a lot's made about the price tag, Elijah. $1.4 million a year for Satterfield. A lot's made at Satterfield's history. You've seen some progress with your quarterback situation when they went to Harburg. That has kind of slowly went the other way due to wear and tear. And you've asked a non-thrower to make some pro throws versus leaning on the dual threat. There needs to be another course correction here with whoever's starting on Saturday. You hope it's pretty if he's healthy enough to go. I don't think Harburg will be healthy enough to go, and I don't know that Sims is in the right mental state to go.
Is it going to matter? I mean, has any three of those quarterbacks, any of those three, inspired confidence in you that they're going to go out there and take care of
I have
football?
A little bit. Listen, if I've got to pick, it's a small sample size, but the situation Chubba was thrust into and the way he delivered aside from that third down throw that should have never been called, we're in agreement there. It should have been a run play on third down. Yeah, let me see Chubba. And I know he's got a history of some turnovers in limited action. He's not played a lot of football. I don't think you can turn back to Sims.
Yeah,
I just don't think you can.
And Colin nails it. Giving Purdy his first start of the year in Madison, Wisconsin, with potentially an injury, might be risky, might end in disaster, but you have to do it at this point because the other two quarterbacks have had their chances and they've failed when put into those chances. I agree with that take, but I don't think anything Purdy has shown me from last season to his time at Florida State to even now this year in limited opportunities has inspired confidence that it's going to be any different. No,
you just hope that there can be more management, right? Less risk, as you would say.
It's a big hope because, again, nothing we've seen from Marcus Satterfield this season has shown us that that's what his game plan is going to be. He's going to come out with his offense, and we're going to see the Marcus Satterfield offense no matter who's at quarterback.
Well, that is, a great thing maybe 2 to 3 years from now.
Could be.
but not with the ingredients you have right now. Thanks for hanging out. Hour 2 still to come. We're here at Rosie's 10th and P Roadshow Monday with Hail Varsity. Charlie McBride, Uncle Charlie, up next.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity on the road here at Rosie's downtown, 10th and P. You're invited out. Monday Night Football, Denver, Buffalo, and a full Big Ten recap. We haven't quite got to the rest of the West yet, but no one wants to win the damn thing. Iowa sits in the best position. That's the Black Friday game. Nebraska-Wisconsin looms on Saturday at 6:30. Chance for Nebraska to get to 6. Wisconsin's been reeling. And we'll look at Maryland as well as we welcome in Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie as we say hi to the coach. Coach McBride, how are you doing? Thanks for the time today.
Yeah. Well, just everything overflowed. I was yesterday we had a little problem with our toilets and our showers backing up, and today I started doing the laundry, and that overflowed, so I thought I'd call the plumber and see how he's doing. So that's what I've been doing, cleaning floors and getting all the stuff. I think what happens is, you get a bunch of your children there and their kids in the summertime, and the toilet paper builds up or something.
Well, I'm sorry about your adventure today with the toilets and the laundry.
It was exciting, no.
Well, it kind of represents Nebraska turnover problems, doesn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Little
Nobody
overflow.
Can do anything right now, right? I don't know. I feel bad for him. I really do. I tell you what, when you're young and you're trying to do, there's so many things going through your head when you're young. It's almost like I got to do everything, and and it gets hard, and I think that, when he's such a competitor, and it even makes it worse, in his mind, because, but like I said, he ought to get the forget it needle put in him and just go play him, and forget it. And he'll probably play great. Just tell him, just go play. Don't even worry about this stuff, But he's a hard guy to and I think the other kids are the same way. They get in there, they want to do the right things, and they're pressing, and you got all your quarterbacks are trying to do the best they can because they're getting their shot, and that's hard.
Charlie McBride's with us, Hale Varsity Radio. Coach, you're a guy that has been patted on the back and people put for sale signs in your yard. So you know the life of a coach, and you know how the second guessing goes, but there's been a lot of second guessing on the 3rd down and 7 interception, not only the pass but the play call. Speak to us for a moment, if you can, about A, what you thought of the play call, B, what's it like to be under fire by a fan base when things aren't going well on a side of the football?
Well, when things are going, with us, it was they got too many yards throwing or too many yards rushing, and I mean, I had Tom call me in the office one day, and there was a guy that hangs around all the time. He doesn't work, but he just hangs out. And he had a petition in all 3 of his country clubs to have me fired. so and Tom said, well, don't worry about it. Well, I never heard about it until he told me, so I probably never would have heard about it. But we won a national championship, and you would have thought that I was the king of the Roosters. You know what I'm saying? And he was just, just all of a sudden he became just a wonderful fan of mine. If he wasn't, if he wasn't as old as he was, I'd have busted his nose.
I love that. What did you think of the play call, though? Did you think Nebraska was being too risky and not running it?
There's a couple of thoughts in that. Maybe there was maybe they thought they really had something. I don't know. They probably thought they really had something cold, and they wanted to win the game and do it in a different manner rather than go through overtime stuff, and who knows what that would have led to. Because our percentages inside in the red zone are not good, and so they probably were a little nervous about going on with the game, maybe going into overtime or something like that. I don't know, but I think that here's the thing. I still, somebody said to me, or not to me, but on television, that they weren't sure who he was throwing to, and I got an end zone shot a little bit, and I could see his eyes were kind of going. It looked like they were going to the player that was behind.
Kemp running the camera.
Yeah.
But if he had thrown it, to Coleman, he'd have scored, I think. I just think he might have, and he had room. But I'm not too sure that if you don't look at the film, it's there may be somebody standing alone somewhere. And that's where you get, when you get young like that, I'm telling you now, you got tunnel vision, and you start saying, I'm going to throw it to this guy before the ball snaps, and that's not good. And that's a hard thing to, you got to get out of that. And who knows, whether that's the case or not. Coaches don't even know sometimes, that's what it is. And because they'll deny that they even thought that way, but I think they do.
Well, Coach, let me get your thoughts then. If you put on your defensive coordinator shoes, let's say you're on the sideline for Maryland calling the defense, and you see an offense out there, 3rd and goal from the 9, the game on the line. It's a tie ball game with 3 minutes left. Whenever your opposition is 9 of 20 through the air with 3 interceptions thrown, would you as a defensive coordinator prefer for them to throw the football in that spot? Because that is the standard call in modern, both college football and NFL. If you're 3rd and goal from the 9, you're going to throw the football trying to get that touchdown, assuming if it falls incomplete, you can still get that field goal. As a defensive coordinator, would you prefer that they actually throw the ball there because it gives your defense a chance to make a play as opposed to running the football where less can go wrong?
Well, the field goal is they're going to get it. You know, I mean, their chances are there. That's a pretty big get. You know, if they're going to go for it, again, that's, to me, that's the guy that's got some guts. And that, I mean, we've been there and, done the thing that probably was maybe the wrong thing to do at the time for some people, and it was the right thing to do for us as coaches. And that's the biggest problem. I mean, you can sit there and you can second guess everything that there is in the world about, what would you do? I know what I'd do. I mean, there'd be people coming after him. I mean, if he's going to throw the ball, he'd get a load in his face because it's, to me, that's the way you get a bad throw or a hurried throw or a interception off the throw. And so to me, I'd rather have him throw the football, but that I would expect them to kick the extra point, but you can find out that quick with the personnel changes. So, but that's a hard thing to say. But I think it depends on the coaching staff and what guys have talked about before. This is something it ought to be talked about in meetings, different situations that you get into, and over the years, what if we see something on TV and say, what are we going to do if we get into that situation? Mm-hmm. And so this may have been something that they already had talked about and what they were going to do. And I would say that the throw was there, but again, it can, if you turn around and look, there's also 3 guys around there. It's 3 on 2 almost. So, and that goes with the eyes. If they're a quarterback that his eyes are going there, there's guys flooding that zone like and then you always say, oh, this guy was wide open over here. Well, that isn't how it goes. I mean,
sure.
It'd be nice because they'll find a good quarterback will find them. The guy that's wide open, even though they have a pick or whatever they have planned.
Coach, what do you think about Nebraska-Wisconsin this week? Both your old schools. You did a lot of work in Wisconsin, did great work at Nebraska as well, and Wisconsin feels like, and it sounds like they're in the tank, but that hasn't mattered. The last 2 programs Nebraska's faced who have seemed to be reeling have won against Nebraska. So what do you see happening Saturday night?
Well, what's inside these kids. I mean, they're the ones that are going to make the decision. The coach can talk all they want, but it's going to be by the leadership of the guys that are the seniors and those that maybe guys that have another year but are coming back or whatever they're doing. But this is a big game for even those kind of guys because they're playing against a good team with good personnel. And if you play well, that helps. That's going to help your chances of going on to the next level and or at least getting a chance to. So I think that look, the way I look at it, we're going to win the next 2 games. I mean, that's the way I just feel that way. And maybe it's my personality or maybe whoever it is, but I think that, they're resilient. I think they are, and I think what they're doing is they ought to be mad. They ought to be ready to choke somebody. But, and that's going to be important. I mean, they have to go out there and show people who's boss. And the quarterbacks have to just have some fun. I mean, if they make a mistake, then laugh at it, because then just come back and throw a touchdown pass or something interesting, But there's things in this game you can't control, and there's got to be a point where you just say, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to play as hard as I can. And am I going to run with every 10 ball? I got the ball on my hands, worrying about a fumble. I'm going to worry about getting across the goal line. And they'll automatically, subconsciously, they'll hold on to that ball. I'll guarantee it, because of the problems they've been through in the past.
Charlie McBride's with us, a Monday with Charlie, Hail Varsity Radio. We're here at Rosie's downtown, 10th and P. As coach, you look at what do you think about Chubba getting the start this week? We don't know if that's going to be the case, but do you think Chubba gives Nebraska a good shot Saturday of all the quarterbacks?
I thought, myself, I would know who to pick myself, but he's a kid that, I think people don't give him enough credit for being able to run. He can run. Mm-hmm. And he can run the quarterback plays and the quarterback runs and things like that. I think from what I see on spring game and so on and so forth, because he just hasn't been in that situation to be a running quarterback before. But he's not slow, and that's something that I don't know if they know anything about that. And that may turn into be a plus if he does, come on. And that's just something that's just a little thing, but it may turn into a big thing. And the other thing is I think that he's been sitting there, and I think, he sees, he sees a little pressure himself with his family and everything else. I mean, that I always wanted to do the best I could. And I knew my mom cared, but my dad, out until the day he died, he never said a good thing about the way I played. And that's unbelievable. It was always, you guys stink, or, you got to play better, or, so, and my mom was always patting me on the back, and, but it's like, something you wait for, and then it's always too late to, when they pass, you don't get it. So, but I mean, if I had it to do all over in my life, that'd be one thing I'd hope for.
Charlie McBride's with us. Coach, we'll see how things shake out in Madison Saturday night, Nebraska, Wisconsin. Both teams trying to get bowl eligible, and we'll see if Nebraska can rebound. Have a good rest of your week, and let us know if we can pitch in with any of the cleanup, all right?
Okay. Well, I'll do the best I can to get them across the goal line, maybe 5 or 6 times. They're liable to explode. I mean,
I love it.
Be a whole different team.
Coach, thanks again. You take care.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Bye now.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it, Blackshirt Hour continues. It's Hail Varsity Radio live, Rosie's downtown, 10th and P, some Monday night football going on, and plenty of Big Ten thoughts today. We welcome in co-host of Big Red Wrap-Up. It's Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFL, or at JMoore44. Jay Bird, lamps broken. Do you have a plastic brick you throw at the TV? Did Junior learn some more new words? I mean, talk to me here. How did Saturday afternoon go at the Moore household?
Yeah, well, I attended the first half with Junior. Had some great tickets, so we took up that offer. And then, obviously, with a 6-year-old, I guess almost 7-year-old, their attention span only goes for so long. And even when the football hasn't been that great, he was ready to get out of there. So we went and found Mom and watched the game at a family tailgate, and that's where we watched the second half. And obviously, things did not go our way. A lot of frustration, a lot of head scratching, a lot of the same stuff that we've seen from this offense through 10 games now. They just turn the ball over. Extremely careless with the football, sloppy, and just had their opportunities, and they've taken advantage of those opportunities. You want to say opportunistic, but they definitely were not opportunistic on Saturday against Maryland.
Well, Jay, you could say that the little guy was impatient, doesn't have a long enough attention span for football, or you could say he was raised right and has no patience for sloppy football, and he needed to get out of there. It's one of the two ways.
That's fair. That's a very fair assumption. I definitely don't have patience for it. My patience is running out with the offense. I understand the situation that they're dealing with. Listen, the deck is not full. I understand that. Which, with that being said, it makes you wonder why they try to do certain things offensively when you can't do it. So, I think I like I understand what they're trying to do. I really do. I know they want to implement it in a certain way, and they want to be multiple. And I don't know if you want to say complex or they don't want to be too simple. But at this point, when you know you're dealing with injuries and young players and just the situational football, I think kind of simplifying it sometimes is the best way to go about it. But I know I'm not getting paid millions of dollars to make those decisions, and that's the reason I'm sitting behind a desk and not on the sidelines. So, I had plenty of chances to take control of that game, and you just kind of go back to some old habits, or not old habits, just habits what they are. You turn the football over, and I guess if you want to see a glass half full, you had 5 turnovers. You're -3, and you still had a chance to win that football game, which is still kind of crazy to talk about. But there's only 2 more games left, boys, and we know where they got that magic number is to get to, and confidence is becoming smaller and smaller. I think through a lot of the fan base and myself included, that see if they can find one more win, the rest of the season.
Jay Moore, Big Red wrap up at JMoore44 is where you follow him on Twitter. Nebraska-Maryland, Huskers walked off 13-10. It didn't have to be that way when you take care of the football. You had the run game going downhill with Emmett Johnson, and even Chubba came in, 3 carries, 33 yards. When he did drop back on 3rd and 6, hit Lloyd for a big-time gain. Great-looking throw. And let's focus in on the red zone, because we're a part of this party boat with the armchair quarterbacking and second guessing, and you can speak to it, and I'm going to ask you about this. Mentality-wise, you're a defense, and you've seen this movie before. You saw it at Minnesota, where there's another turnover, 2 turnovers in that fourth quarter. You fast forward now to game 10, and is there a difference, or should there be a difference with a defensive mindset going out there trying to stop Maryland as they have the ball from the 19 tied, versus you're going out there as a defense with a 3-point lead at worst?
Yeah. No, I mean, essentially the defensive mindset, when it's tied versus you got a lead, it just depends on obviously the time frame of the game. But if you can get a stop and get the ball back in your hands of your offense, you can get have a chance to win this game. But if you have obviously a situation where you're going into with the defense and you have a lead, it's like, man, we just get one stop and this thing's over. And you've done it all year. If you're talking about Nebraska's defense, they've gotten stops. They've been put in the worst positions week in and week out, and they've come up on top. They have performed. So you'd think you'd want to kind of lean on that a little bit and know that they've done it before, and they've done it in this game, holding the Maryland to field goal after a turnover. But yeah, it's just, you just got to go and execute. And from the defensive, play caller, from the DC, not much changes. Maybe you dial up a few more pressures with the lead. Maybe you don't. Maybe you sit back, and it all just kind of depends. But you would think you would just try to give your defense the best chance at winning, right? And to win it. And the call they made, and it was not executed right. And the first play call of the red zone series, I don't know what they were trying to do there. I don't know why you try to, again, this is from my viewpoint, is you brought your third string quarterback inside his own 10-yard line, and you got it down there. I mean, you stole a possession there, right? That's not supposed to happen. You brought your third string quarterback who hasn't played at all, and you got down there. You stole something. So maybe you try to be efficient with your first play call, and it didn't work. Wrong page. Okay, so be it. You run it. Okay, don't get what you need. You try to throw it. But just to me, there comes a point where you had your success. You messed up kind of on your first play call. It's like, okay, I see what's coming. Momentum's kind of stopped. Give me 3 points. I understand that you're thinking if that if the ball was to Coleman or was it supposed to be to Kemp? It sounds like it was supposed to be to Kemp. You're playing for the incomplete, but your guys have thrown 4 picks already today. I know. Maybe you need to learn your lesson. Maybe you need to expect the worst. I mean, this offense is kind of like Murphy's Law sometime, and I like the confidence. I like the trying to capture it, but I sure as hell like my defense with a 13-10 lead. They got the ball their own 25 and trying to go. I know they had the wind with them, but your defense has been put in tough spots all year. I still like them to come up on top and get yourself a win because they've done it all year.
Jay Moore's with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio here at Rosie's 10th and P Downtown Roadshow Monday. Yeah, you just seemed a bit greedy. And Rule's explanation, you can't disagree with either as far as, being aggressive, wanting to go get the win. And, in a lot of years of Murphy's Law, worst case is the defense can't go get a stop and you lose 17-13. That's worst case scenario. But the other worst case scenario, Jay, happened where you throw a pick with your third team quarterback on an out route, and hindsight is just run the football. Hindsight is run the football. On second down, they did that. They lost 2 yards. Hindsight is make sure the play's clean and crystal clear on what's supposed to happen. It's not an RPO. It's not a improvised situation. It's don't pull it, and Chuba pulled it and at least got an incompletion, so there wasn't a TFL. But he had moved them down, and the plays were executed. They had a sweet drive going. But, man, it just, again, your old snake eyes once again throwing the football. Overall, when it comes to quarterback play, and there's been a lot of heat and arrows at Marcus Satterfield, and there's an appetite here in Nebraska now for getting rid of coordinators and coaches because it's happened the last 20 years. And what's your take on that war chant right now of moving on from Satterfield? It isn't going to happen, and there's a lot of groceries that are still in the fridge or freezer because they're hurt. You're not getting a clean look at maybe what the Satterfield office is. The other side of it is this guy's got a history of offenses not performing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not on that. I'm not chanting, we need to change OCs. Like I said, they're not dealing with what they want to deal with. You kind of made your decision at QB. You brought in your guy. He hasn't worked. You got rid of a quarterback that was on the team that was okay last year. You've made lemonade out of lemons with the Hardwick situation. You developed an offense around him to get you some wins. That needs to be respected as well. They've they're finding ways to win without with a quarterback that they weren't planning on playing starting fall camp. So that has to be commended, and that probably doesn't get enough credit as it needs to get done. And again, just kind of goes back to me, and it's just me, right? It's just me. I understand you were trying to instilling an aggressive mindset in your players, and I know you want to be able to do what you want to do in this offense, but they did tweak it, and to their credit, they tweaked it with Harvard to make it work. But when you know you're not running at all cylinders, and you know you have young players, and you know you have guys who haven't played a ton, and you implement certain aspects of a game into the game to where it's situational or whatever it is, I just have to question it a little bit, and that's just me because I care, and I want this football program to win. You did certain things and you got away with it in a very high risk area, and you moved it down there. And looking at the history and just this offense in general, this offense has been backed up. I don't think that they gets talked about as much. This offense gets the ball inside the 10-yard line more than anyone in the nation, I feel like. But you are, and that doesn't help. That doesn't help your offense as well. So, but you got some things going, and the other thing too is you get it down. I don't know what exactly the time frame is. I know it was under 4 minutes, but you're down there 3 minutes or so on the clock. You run the football. You start forcing Maryland to use timeouts too. You start snap that thing with 1 second on the play clock. Boom. If it's 3 minutes, you got 2:20. Then you snap it again. It's or if they're not calling their timeouts, you want to save them. Great. You kick the field goal, and maybe there's 38 seconds, 40 seconds left on the clock. But if they want to start calling timeouts, great. We'll kick the field goal, and guess what? Now you got to go 60, 70 yards without any timeouts. So that's where it's just the disconnect there. It's just I understand what you want to do, and I understand if the play was executed right, it might have been the right play call. But again, so much bad has happened already up to this point. Why would you ever want to you almost got to eliminate that totally, and you just don't do that. It's just like a golfer, in my opinion. He's on the last hole of the tournament, and he's not in the final group, but he knows a par wins this hole. He has a par 5, right? And he knows a par. He has the guys behind him. The weather's tough. He's played well, but he decides to go for the par 5 and 2, and there's a water hazard. Where he knows, hey, guess what? If I lay up, wedge it close, maybe I make a birdie, but guess what? I'm making par at the worst. And you gotta force these guys to come and get you. You gotta force their hand. But if you go for it in 2 and you hit in the water, now you make bogey. Now you're giving them an opportunity, and you kind of know just the risk versus reward scenario. It's just you scratch your head with it, and because I just want, like I said, I have full trust in everybody and everything they do. I'm not just. It's just you just wonder why. I just want to know the why. Like when you have so much bad has gone wrong throwing the football, just why? Why was the play called? I mean, what was your rationale? And I just think more bad it could happen than good in that situation. And obviously the bad did happen. So obviously frustrated with it all. And because again, there's back-to-back games where you had opponents coming on a losing streak that you usually could have won and you didn't. And now you're going to kind of the same situation at Wisconsin this upcoming week. So the situation comes to it again. I hope the right play call is made and really execution happens better too. The players got to execute as well. And I'm sure they've ran that play many times in practice and they execute it well. But that's on the coaching staff and the players as well. It's a two-way street there where you have to have trust in them to execute it, and they have to go do it in right life competition. Obviously, that was not the case.
Jay Moore with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And Jay, whenever you look at Marcus Satterfield, his play calling, do you think there's an element of this being for the long term, if you will, the fact that, we're not going to compromise what our offense is now based on the pieces that we have? And understanding winning is important now, but also understanding the rebuild as a whole is more important. That, you know what, these young wide receivers need reps with the plays we're going to be calling for them in 3 years. This offensive line needs reps with pass protection. If you just go one-dimensional, it's not doing you justice in the long term. Do you think there's any of that with what you've seen from the offense, or do you think I'm overanalyzing?
No, I think there's a part of it. I definitely think there's a part of it, but also they've implemented sprint option and all these other things for Harburg, and I don't think that was the game plan coming in year one. I mean, maybe they had some wrinkles of it, but they adjusted to Harburg's strengths. But I think you have to implement what you want to do. I think you cannot completely go super conservative. You still got to try to throw the ball. You still got to make the defense trust or respect what you're going to do. That you just can't run it, and then super short to intermediate pass game. They'll just load up on you, and you're just running your head into a brick wall. So I understand that, but a part of me is, well, again, I just understanding what you're dealing with, and it's hard. It's hard because we're just in football. The one thing you don't want to overact to is like the one play. It's like you don't want to coach the play. You got to coach the process. And I'm reacting to a play. It's not very, it's not the most logical thing. But again, when it's at such a situational, critical time of a game, it's like, man, well, you got to look to that in some issues. But he has to try to get some sort of momentum going this offense with what he wants to do. Even though you might not have your quarterback on the roster for next year potentially. Your running back group is decimated. Your wide receivers are very, very young. So it's tough because do you want to implement it, or do you want to try to win a football game? Are you trying to build for the next 3 or 4 years? But it's like there's pros and cons. Do you want to not do what you want to do for the next 4 or 5 years to win a football game, or does winning football games help you build better for the next 4 or 5 years? That's kind of the $1 million question. I think winning is going to help. Because one thing I do know, when you get one more win, you also get 14 or 15 more practices for bowl game prep. Nebraska hasn't had that. So you start developing those young players as well. And then maybe you start implementing more of what you want to do in the practices too. So, it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. But I need those wins. I think I value wins more than trying to implementing what you want to do, in the future.
Couple more minutes. Jay Moore is with us, and catch him, Big Red Wrap-Up, co-host of that on Nebraska Public Media at JMoore44 on Twitter. Jay, thoughts on Saturday night in Madtown? It'd be a sweet victory. Exercise that demon. You've lost 9 straight to Madtown. Wisconsin's got a lot of records against Nebraska. This putrid West goes away. Both teams are struggling. And you're trying to avoid being the 3rd straight get-well game for another program.
Yeah. It's just funny how this season's kind of just changed. You look at it from the beginning until to where we are now, and it just kind of shows you how poor the Big Ten West is. That, Illinois with their struggles, they've obviously bounced back, and, Northwestern having their issues, but have looked darn good in the last few games. Wisconsin, everyone was high. Everyone thought Wisconsin was going to win the West. That doesn't look like that's going to be the scenario. There's some interesting things. There's some interesting quotes coming out of Fickell's mouth and some players around there. The locker rooms, there's some volatility amongst the locker room right now. But like these last 2 games Nebraska had against Michigan State and Maryland, both teams had back-to-back losses. And Nebraska was not able to capitalize and to continue that streak. I don't know. I mean, I know what the line is. I know playing on the road, playing at night. I don't know if the crowd's going to be as amped up for a night game as they have been in the past in Madison. But if Nebraska continues to turn the football over like they have at this pace, I can't foresee them winning. I just can't. I just don't know how. I mean, they've done it at Illinois, but I don't know exactly where Illinois and Wisconsin are at this time or comparable. But I just can't foresee them because now, right, you've kind of fooled me once, shame on me, fooled me twice, right? This offense is just, they just turn the football over, and it's just going to be tough. And if they can find one more win, awesome, great. The mental toughness from the defense and just, dealing with all that, it's a good thing. But you go turn the ball over 3+ times again, like you did at Michigan State, and you go do it against Wisconsin Madison. I don't think they can come out on top in this one either. So not feeling great about it on Monday. I know we're still close. The wound is still fresh from Saturday, and I know we still got some time to develop and see what the quarterback situation is with Harburg and Sims and Purdy. Who knows? Because it sounds like Harburg and Purdy are beat up and Sims is healthy. So don't feel too confident about it, unfortunately, on a Monday afternoon talking to you fellas.
Jay, will get caught up again and get locked in for Black Friday. Best to you, and enjoy Big Red Wrap-Up tomorrow night. Thanks for giving us some thoughts today.
Yep, thanks, guys.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Jay Moore. Big thanks to Charlie McBride. Big thanks to you, all of you who chimed in on the stream, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. They can get to everyone's comments, and sorry, we'll do better tomorrow. Keep playing along at home, in your car, on YouTube, on Twitter, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed as well, at HVarsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Big thanks to the folks who've come down to Rosie's, 10th and P, as we're down here a week from, hold on, back that up. 2 weeks from today. We're here the 27th. Back in for Monday Night Football. Elijah Herbel's all geared up for his Denver Broncos. Buffalo Bills tonight. Denver trying to take that step forward. A lot of good, solid talk on Nebraska, their quarterback situation, of course, the play call, and a lot of week left to dive into the quarterback situation and that reality staring at you in the face if you're Nebraska all too often, getting to 6 and beyond, and there's a real possibility you don't get to 6 this year. 2 tough ball games, and 2 to 3 games this season that were left on the table, and we'll see if Nebraska can grow up on the road. As you look back through 10 games, Elijah, this team's had to do a lot of growing up. The defense has done it. You've seen different parts of the offense get better. You've seen the offense take some steps back. They've been limited. And I don't think it is too much to ask for one more win, Ken. And Steven also checks in on the stream. If Nebraska doesn't get to 6, I view the season as a failure. You play to win the game. And, Steven, that's what he said with throwing the pass on 3rd down. But there's other ways to go win the football game. 3 points. Running it, just knowing your personnel and handling it better, and that is still stuck in the craw for a lot of Nebraska fans, Elijah. The other part of this is the defense looked a little bit tired in the second half, and I'm not knocking them. I think they played great football. They got you 3 turnovers. They've made monster stops, but you look at the number of plays the defense has had run against them, they're going into to gain 14 or 15 on the season. Compared to where the offense is at right now. I mean, it's just the way it is when you look at all the turnovers and sudden changes. That's just the physical with plays against them, the emotional part. And it is really going to be a gut check and mental test for both these programs. Can Nebraska bounce back after a couple of tough 3-point losses? Wisconsin seems like the whole place is on fire. In that locker room with their first year. You don't have that issue at Nebraska with buy-in and questioning and lack of effort or discipline. You just have the fundamental issue of turnovers.
Well, yeah, Nebraska has buy-in. I think they're further ahead in their culture shift than Wisconsin is. Wisconsin's had some issues in shifting from that power run Wisconsin-type attack to a potential air raid under Longo. But the difference is Wisconsin has a quarterback. They actually have 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska doesn't. And you look across the offense, you talked about the development. You've seen development just about everywhere on the offense since some guys have had to come in on the offensive line. The young wide receivers, Emmett Johnson stepped up. Had some tight ends step up and make plays. The quarterbacks is the one spot where there hasn't been development within the offense. That's the one spot where Wisconsin is ahead of Nebraska in their rebuild. They have found a guy in Mordecai, and they have a backup quarterback that's performed admirably. That could be the difference in this game on Saturday.
Well, you mentioned square peg, round hole with now versus the future, and Wisconsin's running head into it. Talk to you tomorrow at 4.